Hi, everybody. I'm just a couple minutes late getting started today. I had a lot of content that I was putting together. I could have added a lot more to this training, but I ran out of days. So I'm going to go ahead and get started. Sorry, I'm a couple minutes late. Hopefully, anybody that was here right at five o'clock will stick around. This is going to be a worthwhile training for everybody, I do believe. So I'm going to go ahead and get started. And anyone that joins me, if you wouldn't mind giving me a thumbs up that the sound is good, let me know where you're listening from. It's always fun to connect with people. So without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and get started with today's part 7 of blockchain narratives. So hello, my Life with Crypto brothers and sisters. Welcome to another Money Monday crypto training. As always, I'm your host, Kelly Sunshall. Today, we're going to continue our journey into the 8 must-know blockchain narratives with part 7, which is going to be about Web 2, Web 3, and the Internet of Things. So let's go ahead and get started. Here's some of the questions that I'm going to attempt to answer in this training. What is Web 2? What is Web 3? How are they similar or different? What is the Internet of Things? And what does crypto have to do with all of this? Okay, so let's continue on. So I'm reading a book right now called Read, Write, and Own, and it was written by venture capitalist Chris Dixon. I haven't completed the book yet, but it does a really good job of giving an overview of the history of the internet. So the book title, Read, Write, Own, it's a play on the definition of Web 1, Web 2, and Web 3. I see a few people have joined me. Give me a thumbs up. Let me know that you can hear okay, that I'm not too loud or too soft. And let me know where you're listening from. It's my fun way of connecting with people. And if you have any questions, as always, feel free to put them in the comments and I'll do my best to answer them as I get going in this training. So you can probably hear I'm not totally over this. Hey, Jason, nice to have you here today. I'm not 100% over this bug, but I would say I'm maybe 85% beyond it now. I'm very happy that I'm starting to feel better. So let's talk about Web 1, Web 2, and Web 3. Hi, Mike. Nice to have you here as well. Thanks, guys, for being here. I hope you find value in this content today. So Web 1... this is when the internet was first created. It was mostly a place to read content. The internet was filled with static pages. Users looking for information could search on topics of interest, find web pages with relevant content, and then read to their heart's content to learn stuff. During the Web 1 era, information flowed in one direction, from the web page to the reader. Then came Web 2. And of course, it wasn't an exact, today Web 1 ended and Web 2 started. It was gradual. But Web 2 is the second iteration of the internet. It was born when a company called Napster revolutionized how people interacted with the internet. Internet users went from being passive consumers of written content, reading, to active users who uploaded and downloaded music files, namely MP3 files, that originated from various audio sources like cassette tapes, vinyl records, and back then CDs. This era of the internet was known as the read-write era. Napster initially launched as a peer-to-peer file sharing network, and it quickly became popular for people to download music for free. So it was meant to be just a file sharing network, but what everybody wanted to share back then was music. They found a way to circumvent having to pay for so much music content. In 2000, Napster had over 20 million worldwide users, which was huge back then. Unfortunately, but it didn't last. Copyright infringement laws caught up with them, and they eventually got shut down by July of 2001. But the cat was out of the bag. So, however, Napster had created an internet revolution. They changed how people engaged with the internet forever. Users no longer wanted to just read static pages. They wanted to interact with the content. As I said, the Web 2 cat was out of the bag. Now, the second famous Web 2 company that captured the imaginations of millions of people around the world was called MySpace. MySpace was the precursor to Facebook, a social platform that allowed people to create custom profiles, connect with friends and families, and share content like photos and videos. It was founded in 2003 and was the most popular social network between 2005 and 2008. MySpace started going downhill when News Corp bought them. News Corp being a centralized social media platform that was owned and controlled by a news agency. So let me say that again. MySpace became a centralized social media platform that was owned and controlled by a news agency, News Corp, and advertisements were introduced to it. And that is really what killed the user experience because they didn't do it in a good way. And it also slowed down the network really badly from what I've read. The Web 2 revolution continued with many other Web 2 companies, and the ones we're most familiar with are Facebook, which emerged in 2008. As MySpace went downhill, Facebook started to take off. And in addition to Facebook and MySpace, we got Twitter, Reddit, TikTok, Wikipedia, and many other companies that were born during the Web 2 revolution. Now, Web 2 also ushered in the commercial internet. As I mentioned, advertisements started showing up everywhere. Our likes and personal data were up for sale, causing the e-commerce market to balloon, and it's expected to reach $3.2 billion by 2024. During this Web 2 phase of the internet, which we are still experiencing today, we've had to endure our privacy eroding, hackers stealing our personal data from centralized servers, and intermediaries that sell our data to the highest bidder. So these and other Web 2 problems are the reasons Web 3 was born. Web 3 is the beginning of another disruptive wave of technological innovation on the internet, and it is characterized by read, write, and own, just like Chris Dixon's book is titled. And I think it's a good book. It's worth reading if you really want to understand where we've been and where we're going. So Web 3 is a vast subject that is growing and changing almost daily. And I'm only going to touch on the surface of this topic during today's training. I would need many more hours to spend time researching to really do it full justice. But you'll at least have an idea of what's going on at the end of this. At its core, Web 3 is about putting users back in control of the internet. The original founders of Web 3, in my opinion, were the cypherpunks, and they intended to deliver on the internet's original promise of an open, transparent, and secure system of computer networks that would bring humanity together. The features of Web 3, once fully implemented, would include things like decentralization. On Web 3, no single entity controls data or applications, so users have greater control over their data, and companies have to pay to access it. It would also include transparency and security. The decentralization principle on Web 3 would eliminate the go-between, making the internet more transparent. Decentralized solutions for data storage would be more secure, ultimately. User empowerment. Web 3 would give users the power to own their own data. I talked about this quite a bit last week about when we discussed self-sovereign identity. Without a centralized authority, there would potentially be no communication restrictions in Web 3. New forms of transactions. Web 3, of course to me, maybe not to you, but Web 3 uses smart contracts for decentralized financial exchanges using cryptocurrencies, decentralized applications, and platforms that do not require an intermediary. So these are all the things that we're hoping to get from Web 3, these and more. And the world, the smart people of the world, are really working diligently to bring Web 3 to fruition and to make it real. But there's still some problems. There's still some things that have got to be overcome, and they're not quite there yet. But That's part of what I do in my Let's Crypto group is I keep my thumb on the pulse of what's going on with Web3 and try to keep up with the technology and share that with the members. So problems with Web3. The main disadvantage of Web3 is its complexity and the computational resources that it requires. Web3 relies on blockchain technology, making it more difficult for the average user to use. And issues that need to be overcome within Web3 include, what I've said a couple of times now, is the complexity. Web3 is complex because it uses high-level mathematics and cryptography to create the security and privacy that we all want. Mass adoption right now might not be super feasible until some of these things get worked out. Because Web3 does require a bit of technical knowledge, which is why people join my Let's Crypto group so that they can get an upper hand. Because when you're early to a technology like what's available in Web3, blockchain and crypto, you have a chance to make money on it and to be ahead of the curve, be ahead of the game. That means you might need to know a little bit more than the average person would need to know in a few years once it's all made easy. Because once it's all made easy to use, some of the ability to make lots of money in crypto will flatten out because it'll be easier to use. More and more people will pile in. So there's something to be said for getting in early and learning how to use a new technology before everybody else. So some of the problems with Web3 is computational resources. Web3 requires more computational resources than Web2, and some older devices might be incompatible with Web3. But really, right, as I read that, I'm thinking, well, really all you need is an internet connection. And then you need devices that can connect to Web3. And that part is becoming easier and easier. You can connect to Web3 directly from a web wallet right on your phone. Coinbase wallet will allow you to connect to decentralized apps right within their wallet. Many of the wallets allow you to do that these days. So this part has gotten a little bit easier. The next thing, though, that they're still working on is scalability. Blockchain technology and other decentralized networks do struggle to handle large volumes of data efficiently and securely. Optimistic rollups are the most popular chains right now. They aren't as secure as, let's say, zero knowledge proofs will be once they're all rolled out, but they are the ones that the optimistic rollup chains like Arbitrum and Optimism and Base and I'm sure lots of others, they allow transactions to happen more quickly, and they're much more affordable than on the Ethereum blockchain. So while these problems are being solved, there's interim technologies that are attempting to keep us going, like optimistic rollups. I'm very excited, though, about ZK rollups. Zero knowledge proof rollups really is going to be the future, but it involves a lot of high math, and they're still trying to figure out how to use the math and not have it be too slow. So these are some of the things that I will continue to talk about over the coming months. So what are some of the other challenges? Regulatory and legal issues. We're probably all familiar with some of these because this is what the media likes to talk about the most. The U.S. government, unfortunately, has been very wishy-washy about providing regulatory clarity, which is why they're in a lawsuit. The SEC is in a lawsuit with Ripple. And even Coinbase has sued the government a few times because these companies are trying to force the government into giving us regulatory clarity. Many developers, unfortunately, during this time and their businesses have been pushed out of the U.S. As I just presented in this presentation I did for our membership on Thursday, I did a presentation on ETH Denver, and I showed some slides that specifically identified the quantity of developers that have been leaving the U.S. and where they've been going. And it was a bit surprising to me to see that they've been flooding into South America. I wasn't surprised to see that they're going to Europe, but they're also surprised me to see they're flooding into Nigeria, of all places. So So if you haven't watched it already, those who are members, I highly recommend you go and check out the ETH Denver presentation that I just did on Thursday. I uploaded it today to the membership site, so it's there for you. So last thing about the challenges is crypto security challenges with Web3. Web3 uses digital currencies for online transactions. So learning how to manage crypto money is a necessity. You got to keep your crypto safe, which means you got to learn about how to use the internet and browsers safely. You got to learn about how to use hardware wallets, how to connect them to hot wallets so that you can utilize some of these decentralized applications, but you can do it in such a way that your finances stay safe using the hardware wallet. There's more to learn, and that's part of being an early adopter. And that's what creates all these wonderful opportunities for us. So the last thing I'm going to talk about today is the Internet of Things. And unfortunately, I didn't get to do as much writing about this topic as I wanted to, but I'm going to touch on it with you at least. So the Internet of Things refers to a network of physical devices, vehicle appliances, and other physical objects embedded with sensors, software, and network connectivity, allowing them to collect and share data. So I'm going to say that a little differently. I got this information directly off of IBM's website because they've been early adopters in the Internet of Things. So the Internet of Things refers to a network of physical devices, vehicles, appliances, and other physical objects that are embedded with sensors, software, and network connectivity, which allows them to collect and share data. So IoT devices are known as smart objects, and they can range from simple smart home devices like your thermostat to wearables like smartwatches and RFID-enabled chips that can be embedded in all kinds of things. And some I've read about clothing, but they can be embedded in machinery, transportation systems. They're really all over. And this technology has been around for a while. This is, the company called IOTA, IOTA, they were big on the Internet of Things when I was first getting into crypto back in 2015, 2016. So I know that this has been worked on within the blockchain environment for quite a few number of years. Maersk was one of the first companies that started doing some of this stuff to track their shipments. So IoT enables smart devices to communicate with each other and with other internet-enabled devices, creating a vast network of interconnected devices that can exchange data and perform various tasks autonomously. Now, the part that excites me the most is this first one on my list here. This can include things like monitoring environmental conditions at farms, where you get your coffee or your food. You could get real-time information about the temperature, let's say, of frozen foods that was delivered to your grocery store. I've been waiting for years for this technology to get to a point where I can use it and I can see what's going on with my food that as it makes its way to my grocery store. This technology can be used to manage traffic patterns with smart cars. That makes me a little bit more nervous to know that somebody's, tracking my car in real time. But it might be what's coming down the pike. Controlling machines and processes in factories, I'm sure that's going on right now. And as I mentioned, tracking inventory and shipments within warehouses and across shipping containers across the oceans. So the Internet of Things enables devices across the internet to send data to private blockchain networks to create tamper-resistant records of shared transactions. So now these have to be private blockchain networks if say, for example, the companies that are shipping their products back and forth, they're not going to let everybody in the world know, what kind of data they're collecting with their IoT devices. It could just be used for internal use. So some of this stuff we may not know about that's going on, or you might have to do a lot of deep digging to figure out what might be going on with this Internet of Things. But it's an important piece of what's going on with the internet. And that's about all I think I have to share on IoT. Now, what does Web 2, Web 3, and IoT have to do with crypto? Well, I think it's pretty clear that Web 2 was not crypto. Web 3 is where crypto was born out of necessity for more privacy, and all the other things that I shared. You can re listen to this training. And the Internet of Things is an integral part of the blockchain, and the ledger that gets created from all these devices tracking little tiny bits of data, and those are most likely going to be private blockchains. So I hope this training, it's getting a little bit long now. I hope this has given you a pretty good overview of what Web 2, Web 3 is, and what the Internet of Things could be and is a little bit right now. So that's it for today's training. There's much more that could be said on these topics, but my intention is to keep these trainings as short as I can and just give you some high level understanding. I really appreciate all of you who were able to join me today. I hope you can see the value of understanding blockchain narratives as a crypto investor. Understanding this broader landscape will help you make informed decisions. As always, stay curious, keep learning. Share your thoughts or questions in the comment sections, and I'll do my best to answer. That's all I have for me today. See you all next week. Bye for now.